Hi, Julie Jules Cruise Companion. Today I'm in the ancient city of Jerash. It is the most intact Roman city outside of Italy. When you enter Jerash, that is the Arch of Hadrian. So your driver will park over in the car park, there where there is a little restaurant. You will walk through a souk area where people will ask you to come in to their shops, and there is a free bathroom. Always remember, on this site, bathrooms are free. I've had a couple of my worst experience with bathrooms here at this site at Jerash. The ancient city of Jerash. Here at this antiquity, there is a hippodrome, a recreation of the hippodrome. There is several temples, Temple of Zeus and the Temple of Artemis, and there is 3 churches. It is only probably 20% excavated as a site, but it's a site that you should not miss when you visit Jordan. Hadrian's Arch, the Triumphal Arch. Hadrian visited in 129 AD. So this is the reconstruction of the Hippodrome, and underneath there are what would be the shop fronts. You can see the stairs, there's the seating, each one of those layers is a roll. So I'm actually under the Hippodrome, and here you have a mosaic floor of one of the shops. Just spectacular. You can see the stairs, although the seats, those different levels of stone there would be the seats on the other side for the Hippodrome. This is the reconstruction of the Hippodrome from approximately 220 AD, and the people would be sitting up there. And the horses would run around this track, and there would be something like a seahorse or something. There'd be a counter for each time that a horse passed this point. One of the things that you'll have to prepare yourself for when you come to both Jerash and Petra is the people touting for business, people selling souvenirs, postcards, water, etc. Just be strong and polite and say no thank you, no shukran, and just keep walk on. Don't have eye contact. They'll just make your life insufferable. When we get up to the Temple of Zeus, there'll be people wanting to take your photo, and when they do that, then they'll want money. So yes, they can produce a couple of really interesting shots, but just don't. It'll just make your life insufferable. Just on the other side of the Hippodrome is an area which, in theory, would be about a mile from the town centre. And I'm not sure if you can see down there that dark tomb. So this hill here is a necropolis, a cemetery. Cemetery near the Hippodrome, which is about a mile from the town centre, which is down through there, through the south gate. And over that entire hill is the city. Fabulous. So I've walked a couple of 100 metres, and I've walked past the Hadrian's Arch, and I'm walking past the Hippodrome, and I'm heading for just where that group of people is down there is another archway, which is a gate, and then the whole antiquity goes right over there. It's probably another full kilometre When you've passed the Hippodrome and you're walking towards the south gate, if you do want to hire a guide, there's a little hut here and they have about 7 different languages that you can hire a guide for an hour or so to walk you through. You don't have to have a guide to come through this antiquity. Do some reading before you get here. You might not need a guide. Okay, I'm just walking up to the south gate. After we pass through the south gate, we will see shops on our right, and to the left will be the Temple of Zeus. So if you can imagine arriving at a city through the gate, and then you would be greeted with a row of different shops selling bread and meat and water, etc. Behind these huge walls is the Temple of Zeus. So coming out into the south gate, I mentioned about the little shops. And just as standing above the shop so you can see them. You were greeted with the oval plaza. This is not necessarily the centre of the Jerash site. Though the foundations of this were laid in the 1st century. The street that you can see these people walking down is Cardio Maximus, the main street. Overlooking the oval is the Temple of Zeus. The foundations of the Temple of Zeus are estimated to be 162 BC. Next to the Temple of Zeus you have the South Theatre. The South Amphitheatre has the most amazing acoustics. The Temple of Zeus has a commanding location over the site at the south end. One of the best pieces of advice that I can give anybody when they visit the site of Jerash is when you come in the south gate and you're greeted with the oval, there's a temptation to walk down the Cardio Maximus. But what I advise people to do is come up to the Temple of Zeus and the South Theatre, and then once you've done that, walk across the top of the hill. So you'll see St John's Church, St George's Church, and the Church of Damios and Cosmos over the top. Get over to the Temple of Artemis, come down, and then you've hit the Cardio Maximus, and then you can walk on the flat. So basically you're not having to walk once you've got down past the Nymphaeum and the tetrapylons, the 4-way street. Then you've got to walk up all the stairs. So my advice is once you enter via the south gate, walk up, visit the Temple of Zeus and the South Theatre, then cross over the top of the ridge to the churches and work your way down to the Cardio Maximus. It's the best way of getting the best out of this site without destroying you. So I say about the people here taking your photos, and they basically get you into these really compromising positions, which I deem is quite dangerous. And no photo is worth falling 20 or 30 feet off a rock. The South Amphitheatre, it's only actually really quite small. It only holds about 3,000 people. These guys dressed will play the bagpipes and the drums in a second. Fabulous. And people say, well, why bagpipes? Well, bagpipes basically came from the British I've only been at the site for about an hour or so, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim to head over to that portion of the site, which is the church of Damios and Cosmos and Damios, the two doctors that were martyred. And that is on the way over to the Temple of Artemis, which is over there, where you will see what a floating column looks like. And then we'll walk down the hill to the Cardio Maximus at that end near the Nymphaeum. Hopefully over there you can see the Nymphaeum, and then we'll walk down the Cardio Maximus. I often keep referring to the fact that Jerash is only about 25% excavated, and I think looking up at this hill of the Church of Peter and Paul, it probably gives you a pretty good example of what I mean. So if this layer here was the actual ground that this pillar stood on, all of the earth has been laid on top of that following earthquakes in about 7 something or other. So if I pan around here, absolutely all of this is going to be covering some form of antiquity. So heading over there to Cosmos and Damian and have a look at the mosaics. Okay, I've moved over from the Temple of Zeus and I've come over here to the 3 churches. Now this one is definitely Cosmos and Damian, and we know that because of the mosaics. We know that because of some of the most amazing mosaics that have been uncovered. And over at the front you have the ambulatory, and then you have the nave in the middle and the aisles to each side. I will try and zoom in on some of these mosaics because they are just phenomenal. There's people, there's animals, there's goats, there's lions. I'm going to come into the rear entrance of the Temple of Artemis. Then I'm going to head down the hill around the Nymphaeum, and then eventually I'll end up back over at the Oval. I know I keep harping on about this site only being about 25% excavated, but this scene here you can clearly see how the earth has accumulated behind those stones. And then looking over onto this portion of the hillside over here, and you can see the columns almost covered to the top. So if all of that earth was to be removed, what treasures would be unveiled? So if you don't understand how columns work, they aren't just a solid piece of stone. They are segments of stone, and they don't necessarily have a rigid core. They are called what's floating. So they're basically just sitting on each other, and the weight of gravity of the higher rocks are keeping the other rocks in place. And the tops of these columns are just beautifully ornate. The top of a column is called a capital.
You see the spoon?
Mm-hmm. Standing on this stone just gives you the best selfie that ancient Rome can provide us. So I just visited the Temple of Artemis with the floating columns. You can't enter it from the back anymore, so I had to come around the front, and they've done some pretty amazing stairs, which is fabulous. So finished here. Going to go down the slope, down the stairs to the Cardio Maximus, start from the Nymphaeum end, go down to the Tetrapylon, the junction where South Damascus Road, and then head back out towards the Oval. Coming down from the Temple of Artemis, I've come down this group of stairs, and this would have been a temple. But you can't know what I'm about to say. I wonder what's under all of that earth ready to be excavated. So we're heading down the stairs, and this is 6 groups of steps, and each group of steps has 6 steps, and that is the Cardio Maximus that I keep talking about, the main street. I'm about to enter down another couple of terraces, and I'll be on the main street there. But I actually have to offer an apology. It wasn't 6 terraces with 6 steps. It was 7 terraces with 7 steps each. This is why I say go across the back of the site, go and visit the Temple of Artemis, and then come down the stairs. Because if you have to walk up the stairs, it's going to be a very tiring day. I have been talking about the Cardio Maximus this whole time, and we have now landed on the main street. Isn't that impressive? So the Damascus Gate, the South Damascus Gate is that way. So I'm assuming this is going to be the north-south. And you can see the ridges on the cobblestones of the cart wheels. And you'll also see, as we're walking, some round stones, and that's part of the sewage system. So the water go into the aqueducts underneath, and so the round stones are actually meant to be there because that's part of the water system. These are the round stones that are part of the water system. And this is the amazing nymphaeum, the water system. Also, when we get down to the tetrapylon, it also has a water source as well, because people would be coming to that central place and having a drink. I keep reinforcing about how important it is to look down, and I've demonstrated before the circles, and that's part of the aqueduct system, the water system. But also, I'm not sure if I can go down a little bit. You can see the stones running in a, whatever that one is, oblique direction, and then you've got some other squarer stones going from one side to the other. That's an ancient crosswalk. People would be able to cross the street where the stones are running in that direction. Who'd have thought? How I was describing about getting down to the Cardio Maximus earlier, when I was up there at the Temple of Zeus and the South Theatre. So now I'm actually on the Cardio Maximus, just past the nymphaeum. So when you're walking through an antiquity like Jerash, you could just be overwhelmed with its physical size. But it's really important just to stop and have a look at the smaller things. And on this Cardio Maximus, this main street, you can actually see the entrance ways to the buildings. These little staircases, and then you've got some additional little niches where there would be a statue, or there'd be an oil lamp or a lighting system or something of that nature. So it's important when you're walking, look down, because it's a very uneven surface and we don't want to fall over and hurt ourselves. But just take a few minutes just to really examine what's around you and see how the people would be living. It's zero in the first century. The thing that I keep talking about on the site of Jerash is the tetrapylon. Tetra for pylon, big posty thing. So here's one base, base number 2, base number 3, and base number 4. So there's your tetrapylon. So that would have a big cover over it, and then people coming from the north. I think that way's Damascus. I I think that way's Damascus. So this is basically the centre junction street. So I'm just trying to walk away from the tetrapylon for just a little bit so that you can physically get an idea of what the size of this junction was and how high the roof and cover would be. Amazing architecture. Bit of a warm day. So I'm nearly finished walking down the Cardio Maximus. Getting my cardio by doing the walk and almost hit the oval, which is just down there. Absolutely spectacular. But if you can see just behind me, a row of shops. Small storefronts where you'd be able to buy whatever you needed on this very busy street. Almost to the end of Jerash, the largest Roman city outside of Italy. Came through the South Gate, went up to the Temple of Zeus and the South Theatre, walked across the top, saw a few churches. Could have been Theo, could have been George, Theodore, could have been George. Peter and Paul is up there, and Cosmos and Damios. Went right across to the Temple of Artemis. After finishing the Temple of Artemis, coming down the Cardio Maximus, seeing the Nymphaeum, the tetrapylons, and now we're back into the centre of the oval. And so we're going to head out the South Gate, and that will be the end of our visit to Jerash today. I want to invite everybody to come to visit Jordan, not just visit Jerash. There are other places. To the north there's Ajalun and Onkais. To the south there is Karak Castle, Shobuk, Petra, Wadi Rum, Aqaba. Just come and visit Jordan, the most amazing place to see antiquities. So this is Julie, Jules' cruise companion from the centre of the oval in Jerash in Jordan, saying stay safe everybody and happy travels.